Hi, Cancer. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for August of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco, California.
Well, Cancer, if you missed your annual birthday reading and you still want to get a jump on your personal new year, it's not too late. You'll find a link in the text that comes with this email. And in that reading, you might want to ask about finances, because I think you'll find that's rather of a big topic in this particular horoscope. I want to start actually with a couple of things that are sort of running in the background, if you will, right now. Juno is one of them. We first reported Juno retrograde in July, and so you should definitely check out the video about it that we put in our July 2022 news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology. But just to bottom line it, Juno retrograde in Pisces will bring us into a relationship retrospection period, and this one has a lot to do with looking into how your relationships fit and align with your spiritual value system and the ways that they don't, and how that might compromise your relationships. So, as I said, if you want to find out more about that, check our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, and find the July 2022 news playlist there. This one in particular is in your 9th house, and so I think that it's going to have ripples and implications throughout your belief system. And so it could end up having a fairly broad effect. Juno will be retrograde until October. So we all have plenty of time to figure out what, how this impacts our committed relationships, marriages, business partnerships. The other thing I want to go into is Uranus, which is traveling along through Taurus in your 11th house, which is very much a house of community. And this month it's going to go retrograde. It's happening later in the month. And there it is, the little red RX symbol. It happened on the 24th. And Uranus brings innovation. It can press you to break out, break down, break through. It can bring a rebellious and reactive feeling, but it can also cause you to experiment and head off into some very new and possibly very good directions. Traveling as it is along your 11th house, this can have to do with the communities and the groups that you are a part of. And so when Uranus turns retrograde, which it does do every year, around the day that it does, you may feel that you've arrived at some sort of pivotal day, where you've had an insight or a realization about your relationship to groups that you're a part of or to ideologies that you adhere to. And this may throw you on an inward journey of retrospection on what do these groups or ideologies mean to you? And do you feel like a fit or a misfit? Heavy stuff, right? So, Julia, I'm going to throw the ball over to you right now to talk about Mercury, Venus, and Mars.
All righty. Well, hi there, Cancer. We're going to talk about Mercury first because Mercury is an important planet. It represents your mind, your ability to communicate with others. And wherever Mercury is where you can be very mentally preoccupied that month. So for the first few days of the month, Mercury starts in your 2nd house. It's mainly there in last month. It's mainly spent its time there last month. So if you do want a refresher on that, I totally encourage you to check out our last month's video. But Mercury in the 2nd house for the first 3 or 4 days of the month can mean that you're very preoccupied with your things, your stuff, and earning money. The material sphere of your life. Maybe you're thinking of buying things or even acquiring some things. or even having to sell off some old things too. Then on the 3rd or 4th, depending on where you are in the world, Mercury enters your 3rd house. And the 3rd house is about communication. So is Mercury. They have so many overlays, actually. And modern astrologers say that Mercury rules this house. So the 3rd house is about communication, writing, learning. It's also about your siblings, your local community and neighbors. And when Mercury enters this house, this might be a time where you are actually taking a lot of trips around your neighborhood. It can be kind of a busy sort of month for you. Mercury is one of the travel planets, and the 3rd represents travel too. So maybe you're doing weekend trips, maybe you're just crossing off your to-do list, going around town, running lots of errands. This can also be a time where you're getting more communication from your siblings. Maybe they're calling you up, or your neighbors are inviting you over. And Mercury in the 3rd is a wonderful time for getting lots of writing done, for learning new things, and what other 3rd house activities? That's pretty good. And
Yeah.
Venus, the planet of beauty and relationships, starts the month in your 1st house, where she's going to spend the first third of the month. And Venus in the 1st, everyone loves this transit because Venus is literally making you better looking. So it's a wonderful time if you've got to take selfies, if you need to do headshots. It's a great time for going out and going on some first dates because you're just looking extra good. Wonderful time to do anything to beautify your appearance in any way. Then on August 11th, Venus goes into your 2nd house. And again, the 2nd house, after Mercury leaves, a few days later, Venus comes in here. This is going to be a time where you really want to indulge your senses. The 2nd house is ruled by Taurus. It's a very, very sensual place. You just want to eat well, get a massage, go out shopping. It's kind of, it's a very sort of ladies who lunch transit. You're just going to want to, really live through your senses and maybe acquire some things like that are, maybe Venus represents fashion, art, indulgent types of things, and really just kind of pamper yourself during that cycle. And then finally, Mars, planet of action and activity, wherever we got him, we're very driven, but we can also run into some conflict, starts the month in your 11th house, and he's going to be there until August 20th. So the 11th house represents your friends. It represents any groups you're a part of. It's known as the house of hopes, wishes, and dreams, so long-term goals. And you could be very, very driven to sort of accomplish some goal that you have, get to some dream, fulfill some wish in your life. And it can be a good time for getting ahead in that. However, Mars in the 11th can sometimes be a little bit dicey when it comes to your friendship circles. Mars can bring up annoyances, irritations, competitiveness with your friendship circles, and also with any groups that you're part of, whether it's a recovery program, a union, a society, or a club. You might come across some static in your group, maybe not seeing eye to eye with them. However, it is a wonderful time for getting involved in some group effort. Since Mars represents activity, especially if it's something athletic, like going on a group jog together or playing in a sports team, this would be a great time for it. But, getting some effort done through a group is a really good way to sort of manifest the higher side of this transit. Then on August 20th, Mars goes into your 12th house of isolation and the subconscious. And Mars in the 12th is a little bit tricky. Mars, which is usually about your self-assertion, your confidence, putting yourself out there, kind of feels a little disabled in the 12th house. Like if you get upset at somebody, upset at someone over something, it's going to be hard for you to be direct and upfront and assertive about it. You might actually want to be a little more indirect. You might want to be a little bit more below board with your actions. Just be a little bit careful if you are doing anything sneaky, because the 12th house is the house of self-sabotage too. So if you're really doing something sneaky, don't count on getting away with it. And Mars in the 12th house can be a really good time for any type of spiritual activity. If you like meditating, yoga would be great with Mars in the 12th house. Or Tai Chi, for example, could be fabulous. And Mars in the 12th house might also just mean that you get itchy and irritated out of nowhere. Maybe something something happens, you think it's fine, then 2 or 3 days later, you're all upset about it out of nowhere, So the 12th house is a very diffuse place. So it can be hard to kind of pinpoint where our Marsy energy is coming from in that place. But good time for charity work, good time for spiritual pursuits.
Yeah, it's kind of like the house of free floating. Like when Saturn is there, free floating fear. When Mercury is there, free floating anxiety. When Mars is there, free floating anger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of looking at it.
So I want to take you back to August 11th, which is where the full moon happens. And this is in the houses to do with finance. The second house, where the sun sits, has to do with one's own money. And then the 8th house has to do with other people's money or places where you invest your money, you pool it with somebody else. And finding Saturn there, I would say you're in like a 2.5-year period where, and this is because of Saturn in the 8th house, where you better be careful and really like engage in your due diligence when it comes to investments, because the possibilities of something going wrong are pretty high when you invest your hard-earned money into something while Saturn is here. And this moon, which plays into that Saturn, could bring an experience where, in possibly a very emotional way, that investment comes back to bite you, and you get shown that you really should have done some due diligence. So I would be very careful about that, and especially the way that this moon, sun moon opposition with Saturn forms a square to that Uranus in the 8th house, and then ties into that stuff about potential conflict with community this month and potential disruptions in your sense of being a fit or not a fit, like your acceptance or rejection of and by the group and the ideology that it adheres to. I know that was a mouthful, but if you really parse that, you'll find that it was a very meaty mouthful. So apologies to the vegetarians out there. So the next thing I want to show you is that we have, what is it? Yes, the sun changes signs. The sun is traveling along through Leo, and it's going to move on into Virgo right about here. And when the sun moves into a new sign, it's a signal that it's time to shine the spotlight of our high quality attention into that new arena. And in your case, this is your 3rd house. As Julia was describing, it's a house of communication, local travel. It governs the people right around you all the time, such as housemates or people who live in your building, your neighbors, maybe your siblings if you're young. And so this is a really good season for putting high quality attention onto those people right around you and making those relationships better. So really noticing them, that little old lady who comes out to get her mail, every day at the same time, say hello to her and just give her an especially warm hello and see what happens. Sometimes a little attention, spread around, it helps things to grow. Then a little bit later in the month, we see that the moon joins the sun on the 27th in a new moon right here in the 3rd house in Virgo. This is a very perfectionistic new moon. It very much has that Virgo feel of like trying to get everything exactly right. But the fly in the ointment is that scrappy Mars right over here in the 12th house, having entered into the 12th house, bringing that like free-floating anger and irritation, so that you may find that, there you are trying to get something exactly right and fit everything into place and paying attention to the details and being really meticulous and craftsmanlike about it. And then something happens to obstruct what you're doing and you just explode. So watch out for that, especially around the 27th. Remember that moons, they pass really quickly. They don't have much of a lingering effect when they're not eclipses. And as Julia advised, pay attention to holding your temper while Mars is in the 12th house, and just recognize that it is a little bit more difficult to be assertive in a balanced way when Mars is there. But don't worry, he'll be off and away out of that 12th house within another month or two. All right, well, that's the stuff we have for you today, Cancer. You can always find your horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com. And if you did want that belated birthday reading, you can check out the readings tab on our website. And then if you want to know more about this month's moons or any of the other news, you can check out our monthly forecast tab. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.